Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Press Play. I'm your host, JJ48, and tonight we are going to be continuing our wrap up of Wind Waker and starting Legend of Zelda Four Swords Adventures. So, last time we kind of took a little bit of a look at how things are kind of fitting together timeline wise, uh, just based on information from the games themselves. One thing I One thing I did notice is in Oracle of Ages and Seasons, I did get the sprites mixed around. For some reason, I always associate seasons with blue and ages with red, despite the fact that those uh, those aren't the right colors and haven't been since I first played the games, uh, 20 years ago. But beside that, the one thing I did notice with the Oracle's games is we might be able to, well, I can't say we can exactly fit them in on the timeline, but we can speculate how they might fit in. Just uh, in particular with ages, we do have Zora available in Oracle of Ages, and in Wind Waker we saw that the Zora had all become the Rito, at least in Hyrule. So I guess it's not certain with ages, the taking place in Labrina rather than in Hyrule. Maybe there are still some Zora over there, but I'm guessing it's more likely that these take place prior to Wind Waker at some point. So, uh, the small note on the timeline there. Okay, so I next wanted to just take a look at a lot of the enemies and how they've been depicted over the years um, throughout the games, and how those depictions have changed in over time. In this case, first, just looking in alphabetical order, we have Armos and Armos Knights. The Armos have always been statues that come to life and harass Link in some way. But one thing I notice is prior to Wind Waker, they have just always had a shield and some kind of weapon. In the 2D games, like in the original Legend of Zelda and the Game Boy games, it looks like a spear or trident or something. Swords in some of the other games. And then in Wind Waker, suddenly we have it. I mean, it looks very much less like a creature of any kind. I mean, it's much more stylized, just sort of vaguely, you know, arm shapes here. But it's not holding any shield or weapon. I mean, it has spikes around it, but it's not wielding a weapon. And then similarly with the Armos Knights, first they were a boss in Link to the Past, then a mini boss in Link's Awakening, and then now they're all over the place. They don't even get mini boss status. And again, I mean, it looks a little bit more. I mean, at least it has a recognizable face on it, but it's still much more stylized. It looks less like uh, a depiction of an armored warrior and more just this vaguely I don't even want to say humanoid, but I guess the face is somewhat human, apart from being a cyclops. I mean, it's just interesting that the whole thing has gotten more stylized, and I think that's a trend that we'll see continuing on with a lot of these enemies. And it's something that, as we move forward, I'm going to be interested to take a look at. Is that specific to Wind Waker, or is this something that's going to be continuing on with future Zelda games? Similarly with BMOS, we had their first three iterations. In many cases, I don't include the Oracle's games just because most of the time they use the same sprite as Link's Awakening, just in color. But in the first three games, it looked like a statue of some kind, a very grotesque statue in the case of Ocarina of Time, but still very, very much a statue that looked like some kind of a creature. In Wind Waker, I guess it's still a statue, but it looks much more mechanical to me. It seems the BMOS in there don't seem don't seem to have any creature-like personalities. Like these, I could almost imagine a I can't see my mouse cursor, but the three earlier ones, I can imagine almost being like spirits inhabiting statues or something like that. If we want to look at a fantasy explanation, the Wind Waker one on the right, it seems more mechanical. It just seems like, yeah, this is part of a security system. You turn it on, it's gonna do security stuff. So and this I think is something that we will also see more going forward. That uh, we're gonna start seeing more technical things in the Legend of Zelda series. I think not doesn't ever go full steampunk or cyberpunk or anything like that, but there I think we will start seeing more elements of like lost technology from previous times. The Dark Nuts, again, the design hasn't changed a lot. I mean, it's still an armored guy with a sword and sometimes a shield, making it just tough to attack him. But what I've really noticed here is these first three look like they could just be humans or Hylians or something like that. In Wind Waker, we got the dog head on the Dark Nuts. They appear to be a completely different species. They're actually monsters now, not just uh, either suits of armor come to life or uh, Hylians in suits of armor or something. Um, Similarly, floor masters were before just disembodied hands. Now again we have the hand, but it has this dark pit beneath it, and I don't know. To me, it just makes it seem like it's more of a. It adds a more of a fantasy type element to it. That this isn't just a disembodied hand that when it picks you up, it's just picking you up and transporting you through the dungeon back to a previous room. It's there's a mystical element. Okay, it's drags Link into this pit of that is who knows where or made of what, and it's adding a more fantastic element. So I think along with the making Dark Nuts into monstrous creatures instead of humans, it seems to be playing up the otherness of them, which is particularly interesting when you consider that the floor masters in Ocarina of Time and I think Majora's Mask uh, were looking far more grotesque, and here by stylizing it, they took out some of the it doesn't look quite so grotesque, but it's still very disturbing in just a different way because of the uh, the dark pit of nothingness element. Moblins have been rather interesting. At the top, we see the four. We see the original Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, Link to the Past, and the Game Boy Zeldas, um, minus four swords, which I didn't put on here for some reason. Um, but these were all pretty much they were the same size as Link, and uh, they weren't necessarily the easiest enemies, but they weren't super tough. Just took a couple hits to beat them. I mean the Zelda 2 moblins were some of the easiest enemies in the game. But then at the bottom you can see Link, sorry, Ocarina of Time moblins were the monstrous things that we saw as adult Link in um, near the Forest Temple. And then Wind Waker, they're not quite so monstrous, but they're still considerably taller than Link, and they were a bit. Uh, they weren't they certainly weren't mini bosses or anything, but they were a little bit tougher to fight than some of the standard enemies. And I don't have them in this list here because the Wind Waker was the introduction of them, but bokoblins, the smaller guys, seem to have kind of taken over the Moblin role as the standard Link enemy, and the Moblins are taking a bit more of a how do I say they like an elite status almost. Um, Although visual wise they haven't really changed much. They've always looked kind of like a cross between a pig and a bulldog, and I guess maybe they're getting. I guess whether they look more piggish or bulldogish just kind of depends on their depiction. Wind Waker, I think, looks a bit more piggish. Ocarina of Time, looks a little bit more like bulldogish. Um, but it's mostly the size that jumped out at me, jumped out to me with the Moblins. Octoroks have been kind of interesting throughout most of the 2D depictions. They've been fairly fairly consistent. They started only drawing in 4 legs rather than crowding them out with all 8 of them on screen, but still same basic design. But then when we get to the 3D Zeldas, they've consistently depicted them as aquatic when they've been land-based for all of the 2D Zeldas. And this is even the case going to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and then back to the Oracles games and um, Four Swords, and then back to Wind Waker. They're back to being aquatic. So this will be another thing to keep an eye on is why they're well, not why, but looking at the 3D Zeldas and 2D Zeldas, different depictions of Octoroks, and I wonder if part of that has to do with in the 2D Zeldas uh, we had the originally Zola, and then um, later on Zora, meant to be River Zoras to distinguish them from the the Ocean Zoras, the Zoras that we're more familiar with. We had but we had those enemies being in the water, spitting fireballs at us, spinning things at us, and I wonder if in the 3D Zelda is just trying to come up with a new enemy like that, and then also putting Octoroks on land, finding places for them might have just been a bit too much, and so they decided, okay, we'll just have the Octoroks take the place of the River Zoras, and that way also we don't have to run into confusion between River Zoras and the Zoras who, while they did appear in Oracle of Ages, appear far more often in the 3D Zeldas. Not sure, but we'll have to keep an eye on that depiction going forward as well. Pose have been fairly consistent since their introduction in A Link to the Past. The main reason I wanted to include here was because I didn't realize until I was going through these sprites, I realized that I had never really understood or thought of the distinction between Pose and Guinea, Genie, however they're pronounced. The 2 up at the top here, which are not Pose, they're just here for visual reference. From original Legend of Zelda and Link's Awakening. I never really understood why there were the 2 different types of ghost enemies, and looking at all the Pose together, I suddenly realized all the Pose carry lanterns, whereas the Genie do not. So I believe, I don't know if we've seen it in any of these games yet, or if it's in any of the games, or if it's just in some of the outside material, but it seems to be a reference to Pose carrying their spirits around with them, the lantern kind of carrying the Pose spirit. And we have seen with Pose, particularly the Ocarina of Time Poe, that we could capture its spirit in a bottle, and there was the vendor who would pay us if we captured Pose spirits. So, not sure why Guinea spirits don't hang around like that, but that was my main thing here. Although I do also notice the Pose from Wind Waker much more colorful, and a variety of colors as opposed to in the other games where it's pretty much just one color for everything unless they're a special one. Redead have only been in a couple games so far, but we can already see, again, Redead in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask was taller than most uh, Hylians or other people, but it still had a very just mummified look. The Redead in Wind Waker, much more. You can practically see his spine there between his belly and his pelvis, and a much larger head. Again, very much on the one hand a more cartoony look. On the other hand, in being more cartoony, it also to me looks far more disturbing, and much more. I mean, Redead were always bad enough, but the Wind Waker Redead just seems even more unnatural, uh, and I don't know. I never liked dealing with them. Part of that is also, I guess, the way you recall, they uh, pretty much don't react to anything until Link starts getting close. Like we threw Boomerang at them, and it just goes thunk, kind of knocks their head back a little bit, and then it slowly goes down. Like they don't even seem to notice it, which just adds to the creepiness. Uh, Stalfos, again, early on the the 2D depictions, kind of Link-sized enemies, and uh, the first two have swords. Link, Legend of Zelda, and Link's Awakening. Sorry, Adventure of Link have swords. They've had some kinds of weapons, but then we get to Ocarina of Time Stalfos, and he's armed with a sword and shield and is much larger than Link. It's He's like the Moblin, kind of been elevated to more of a mini boss status, and that carries over in Wind Waker, where he's much taller than Link, and we can't even beat him until we first break him apart and then have to hit his head. Like just breaking him apart doesn't do anything except inconvenience him. No matter how many times we do that, he'll keep coming back until we destroy the head. And uh, his weapon as well in Wind Waker, being a massive club instead of the sword, just makes him even sets him apart from Link even more. And I'm not entirely sure. Again, in the previous iterations, it looks like these were probably meant to be just skeletons of fallen warriors or possibly moblins, but it seems like mostly you know something humanish. And then in Wind Waker we have massive and the proportions being all wrong. Um, no, the proportions don't even fit. Like the skull's very different from a Redead, so they're not the same. I don't think they're meant to be the same creatures as, or like the same origin as Redead. Just some of them skeletonized and some mummified. But again, making, I guess in general, I'm noticing a lot of wanting to take enemies and making them more monstrous or more alien, um, which I guess part of that could be Wind Waker itself and just the art style, but I wonder if part of it could also be uh, the Zelda series wanting to make these enemies their own. Like, what makes a Stalfos different from just a skeleton in any generic fantasy? Um, the early Stalfos, you know, you could probably swap them out with. Uh, you could put them in any game that has fantasy, and they're gonna, kind of look like they fit. Wind Waker Stalfos it looks a little bit more unique. You need to work a little bit harder to fit them in. So again, that'll be another thing to just keep an eye on. I'll be interested to see how we're kind of piecing things together moving forward. And then Wizrobes continue this trend. All the 2D depictions look very similar. Hooded, very stereotypical wizard outfit. Hooded in the case of Legend of Zelda uh, with a hat in the other 2D depictions, but um, can't hardly see his face, just his eyes glowing out from the darkness, and he just appears and shoots magic. Very standard wizard. Was this? I believe this was Ocarina of Time. I don't recall if Majora's Mask had it, or was whichever one of them had Wizrobe. He now looks much different. He has no hood, no hat. Looks like an wizened old man, but with tusks and things like he doesn't look like he's a Hylian or anything of that nature. And actually, with those nostrils there, and let's see, could almost be a it could almost be like an old Moblin from Ocarina of Time. The Ocarina of Time Wizrobe. And hmm, I don't think the Wizrobe was quite so tall as the Moblins there, but again, taking on a more monstrous look and having a staff instead of just waving his arms about. And then, of course, in Wind Waker, they just push that even further. That now it's a toucan instead of it doesn't even look like any sort of humanoid thing. It looks more like a bird, and he is very clearly not just carrying a staff. He actually like waves his wand around to cast magic. So again, kind of taking something, kind of a generic wizard look and making it into something far more unique. And I don't think, if I recall, I don't think the toucan Wizrobes are going to stick around for too terribly long. They will change throughout the series again, but I do think we will start seeing the Wizrobes will. I think they'll keep messing with the design and wanting to make them look more unique. And actually, it was Wizrobes, the toucan Wizrobes, that kind of got me wanting to start taking a look at these enemies and seeing how their depictions have changed over the years, and how they will continue to change. So then, last of the enemies, I believe, Ganon. In the early games, he was just a giant pig guy. Uh, let's see, Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, Link to the Past, and then the Oracles games when we played a Link game. And then in Ocarina of Time, they gave him a human form, Ganondorf. And then his monstrous form, you can see a lot of the same elements as the earlier Ganons. Um, his hoofed feet, so similar to the Oracles games, which would make sense that the Oracles games came out after Ocarina of Time, so they actually probably based his design on Ocarina of Time Ganon. But in general, far larger and more imposing. Um, it's tough to tell with the sprites here. He is larger than Link, but once we hit Ocarina of Time and then the Oracles games, he just becomes a massive, much larger than Link. And then we have Wind Waker Ganon, or Ganondorf, who I'm trying to think. We didn't see him in his beast form, of course, because he didn't actually get the Triforce. And but just looking at him and comparing him to Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time, uh, they've downplayed his physical attributes a bit. I mean, he still does fight with swords, and he's very adept with them. He was, doing a good job blocking us with them. but with the flowing robes and uh, his physique, yeah, I mean, sure he's muscular underneath the robes, but we're not seeing big muscular arms and legs like we are with Ocarina of Time. So I mean, it just makes him. It highlights the wizardy aspect, the magic aspect of him, even though he still fights with swords. So, and I think we'll see some more changes to Ganon's design as well, but think we're gonna I think we're gonna start seeing more elements of both the physical and the magical elements there. Oh, great. Okay, Great Fairies and the Fairy Queen. I do apologize for including an Ocarina of Time Great Fairy, but it's necessary for comparison purposes. Starting with the original Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2 fairies, we didn't really have great fairies. We had the fairies in fairy ponds who kind of serve the same purpose, but they look identical to normal fairies. Then Link to the Past, we have the blonde-haired, green dress fairy, uh, the Oracle's games, and Link's Awakening. We have the black ponytail fairy, of course, Ocarina of Time fairy, and then Four Swords, and then Wind Waker fairy. And one thing for some reason, I hadn't really noticed till I was assembling the sprites is I don't think I had ever noticed the antenna on the fairies before. Because I don't never really notice them in game while they're moving around. But when I see them on the sprites, of course, they very obviously have bug-like antenna. Um, most of the fairies, not all of them. And then their wings um, are very bug-like as well. So I think the earlier fairies seem like they were kind of going off of the idea of fairies being sprites or pixies, bug-sized, um, associated with insects in that way. Then with Ocarina of Time, they seem to go more of a nature spirit. Um, see all the vines and doesn't really have the bug elements there. It just has uh, a very wild nature element. Four Swords, we were kind of back to the buggish element, although not with noticeable antenna and looking far more majestic and regal as playing up the powerful and uh, the power element of fairy while still having the wings retain it. And then Majora's Mask going, sorry, not Majora, Wind Waker. I'll probably end up calling Wind Waker every single game except Wind Waker by the time we're done with this. For Wind Waker, we have a very different design. I guess you can kind of think like the forearms are sort of suggestive of the dragonfly wings on the previous fairies, and the long strands of hair. Maybe those are meant to suggest antenna, but overall the design is very just strange and alien compared to the previous designs. And thinking of elements of fairy, it's like, okay, so we're downplaying the nature aspect and just really playing up the strangeness and the weirdness of fairy with the fairies. And then again, when we look down at the bottom to the fairy queens, Link's Awakening or A Link to the Past. Sorry, there are way too many Zelda games here for me to keep all the names straight. A Link to the Past is styled similarly to the Link to the Past Great Fairy, um, but she looks even more regal and more powerful, and her antennae are kind of downplayed into, I'm not even sure if those are antennae anymore, if it's like a wreath of flowers on her head. Um, very similar design, but not the same. And her wings almost look more angelic than bug wings. But then Wind Waker Fairy Queen, they went in a very interesting direction of the Fairy Queen looking like a child, and clearly more powerful based on what we know than the Great Fairies. Even has a doll looking like a great fairy. And yet, as the most powerful of the fairies, she herself takes on the form of a child. So I guess looking at this, we still have this strangeness and otherness, especially with the metallic sheen that she has, but then also an air of like innocence or playfulness um, as well, I which I have to say also, I think playfulness might have been what they were going for with the Ocarina of Time fairies, but I think Wind Waker fairies pulled it off much less creepily. They seem to do a better job of, I guess maybe because they look other enough that the playfulness fits in with that, um, rather than just whatever was going on with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Okay, so looking at finally in wrapping up, I have a few more slides here. Looking at the themes of mostly Wind Waker, but also throughout the series, just a few things I picked up that have kind of been across Zelda games. One, we have exploration. The Zelda games have always been very non-linear, even with games. Uh, Many of the games are go find an item, and then once you have an item, it opens up new parts of the world. But there's still usually multiple places that you can be looking and finding stuff and exploring. Only occasionally do you have choke points where this one place needs this one item, and that's all you should be doing right now. Very noticeable, especially in this game with all the islands. Once we get the sail, we can go to any island we want. Well, the sail and the Wind Waker. Some islands we can land on and we might not be able to go very far if it requires a certain item, but we can still find the items. We can talk to the fishmen. Uh, we can do quite a bit of exploring without needing specific items. Another theme I notice is destiny, and what I mean by this, it kind of looks differently in different elements or in different games. But going back to the very first Legend of Zelda, Link has a mark on the back of his hand that indicates that he's the hero who's supposed to be saving Hyrule. In the first Zelda game, Impa was looking for a hero to rescue Princess Zelda and the rest of Hyrule, and sees the mark on Link's hand and is like, okay, yeah, you're definitely a hero. You're the one who's gonna save Hyrule. And that's been an element throughout the series of the uh, of destiny, kind of having a chosen one. Um, you're the designated hero. In this game, it took a little bit of a different turn in that initially we weren't setting out to um, save Hyrule. We weren't even really setting out to be, a hero of destiny, or we didn't have any special mark noticeable at the time. But we were wearing clothes similar to the Destined Heroes clothes because our island has these stories about this hero from long ago. And it just so happens that, oh, hey, on the day that I come of age and get this, I'm going to be dressed up like the hero, that's the day that my sister gets kidnapped, and so I have to go and set out and rescue her. And So that we do actually see a little bit of destiny at play there. And then, of course, at the very end, we do see, uh, I believe Ganon calls attention to the fact that he and Zelda and Link all have, the Triforce marks, and the Triforce pieces have been brought together, and that's how he's going to try to win before King of Red Lions steals his Triforce wish from him. Um, so Destiny's been Destiny's been an important part of of the the lore of the series, and that's one I think we'll definitely be seeing more of as the series goes on. We also notice several races fighting Ganon, or Link not fighting alone. We didn't really have too many various races early on in the series, but with Ocarina of Time at least, we had the seven sages, and the sages were not all Hylians. They're not even all humans. We had, we had Impa, who was Sheikah. We had Nabooru, who was Gerudo. We had Ruto, who was Zora. Had Darunia, who was Goron. Saria, who was Kokiri. Rauru, who I believe was Hylian. And then Zelda, who's also Hylian, but I guess also, specifically a member of the royal family. So, and I guess she doesn't really fill the same role as the other sages, but so we have kind of this mixture of a whole bunch of different people fighting. In this game, we again had Makar and Medley helping out, restoring some power to the Master Sword. So the Rito and the Koroks helping out. We and even in a sense, the fact that we're again, I guess since Ocarina of Time, well, Link hasn't even always been fighting Ganon alone. Like even not just people being with him in spirit, but people actually being there to help, because in some of the fights, Zelda has been fighting alongside him. Not just here, I'll give you some spiritual strength, or I'll give you some item to help you fight, but like she was actually present at the battle. And in this one, we're trying to distract him so that she can hit him with a light arrow. And that brings me to my last point. When we see the three elements of the Triforce, we have courage, wisdom, and power. I always used to think that it was a little odd that we have these three elements of the Triforce. Power is supposed to be, the manifestation of power, and yet courage is able to overcome it on its own. But of course, it hasn't been on its own. Courage and wisdom have been working together to overcome power. Link does a lot of what he does through courage, but it takes Link and Zelda working together, courage and wisdom, to fight against Ganon's power. So essentially, we have 2/3 of the Triforce fighting against 1/3 of the Triforce. I also wanted to look at music, both in universe and out of universe. Within the universe, as long as the game has been going on, we've had musical instruments that did magical things when you play them. We had the flutes in the original Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2. With Link's Awakening, we had specific songs that the same instrument could play different songs and have different effects. Link's Awakening, you'll recall, had the ocarina that we had three different songs that we could find. One of which I believe is required. The other two I believe are completely optional. And then that, of course, continued in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, where there's like a dozen songs for Link to play. And then in Wind Waker, we have Link doesn't just he doesn't get an instrument, he's actually conducting the instruments. The sages had their own instruments. We had Makar with his viola, um, which was kind of cello sized for him, and we had Medley with her harp. And Link doesn't accompany them; he actually conducts them when we're going through the dungeons with them. Which I guess thinking in that way, it makes a bit more sense of Link, picking them up and kind of telling them what to do. In that, they're working together, but Link is the conductor. And then even when conducting the wind, um, I noticed more clearly listening to the wind as Link's conducting it. It's like a chorus of voices um, hitting different chords, and so Link isn't just making specific notes; he's conducting the wind's voice to play these songs. And then I just noticed the way the soundtrack has also been being used more from gameplay technical standpoint. Going back to the original Legend of Zelda, we had different music in different areas, so pretty standard video game stuff. Of in the overworld, we had more heroic, adventurous music. In dungeons, we have darker, more dangerous music. But then in Ocarina of Time, we started hearing music being used more conditionally. We would be running along the overworld, and an enemy pops up, and you hear the music just smoothly transition to you're in a fight. And then once we dispatched the enemy, it would again smoothly transition back to the overworld music. In Wind Waker, they play with that more. I believe I pointed out when we were sailing, if we didn't have our sail out, if we were far enough away from the island that the music would start playing, and we didn't have our sail out, it would be the sailing theme, but it would be missing a couple of the instruments. I think primarily the horns. And then once we get the sail out and now we're moving faster, then the horns come in and swell the music even more. So getting not just being able to change music based on circumstances, but having the same piece of music, selecting which voices are playing depending on the circumstances. So it's just kind of interesting from a technical standpoint how they're increasing the use of music and what it does and what it means, how it helps with the game. And then finally, I believe this is the final slide on here. I did want to just play a couple. I did want to play a couple of musical references that we're hearing some of the same themes that have been from previous Zeldas appearing, starting to reappear throughout the series, or at least be adapted through the series. And of course we have the main Zelda series theme not quite being copied in the overworld theme in Wind Waker, but being used and kind of played with. But beyond that, we're hearing some themes throughout the game. So let me pull those up, and I'm just going to play a little bit of each one here, so we can kind of hear. So the first was in Ocarina of Time. I guess all of these are from Ocarina of Time, the examples I have, but we had the Kokiri Forest music. And okay, let me pull this up and hopefully you'll be able to hear it. So this was, you might recall, music when we were just starting out in the Kokiri village. Link's running around talking to his Kokiri friends. Okay. Now Outset Island, I think you'll be able to hear elements of it in there, which is the start of Wind Waker. Can hear some similarities. So just listening to this, I feel like we have elements of Kokiri Village. There's also some elements of the Zelda lullaby in that. Let's see. So it's not that they necessarily took exactly the same song. They did mix it with Zelda's lullaby a bit, and change the tempo, things. But I do find it interesting that in both games you have the opening area where Link is starting the game, kind of playing with the same theme here. Next, we're going to look at Saria's song in Forest Haven, and Forest Haven is going to have some elements of Kokiri Village, but it'll also have a bit of Saria's song in it. And so Saria's song, just as a reminder, is... Okay, and inside the Forest Haven, specifically inside Forest Haven when we're around the Deku tree, and in that area, there's no enemies around. So this is what we get. Hearing elements of Kokiri Village here. I think coming up here. Okay, so it's just that little bit that's in there, but you could hear the da 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 da. And of course, Saria being the sage of the Sage of the Forest Temple, um, and the Kokiri and the Korok similarities. It makes sense. It makes sense there, but I think it adds a little bit of familiarity, at least to people familiar with the song, which is rather fitting for Saria, because she's Link's first friend in Ocarina of Time. And then Kakariko Village and Windfall Island will. I think it's this one. The connection is a little bit less clear, but there's definitely you can kind of hear some elements if you play around with it. And I don't have them played around with, but I can at least we can at least listen to them, and hopefully you can hear some of it, or listen to it on your own if you want to hear more. So Kakariko Village from Ocarina of Time. Okay, that's uh, hopefully that's far enough for us to hear on Windfall Island. Um, Windfall Island a little bit less slow and sleepy, but I think we'll be able to hear some of the same elements. Uh, yeah, so uh, again, not that they're just copying the theme; they are playing around with it a little bit more. But we're hearing these elements with it. And when I was actually typing it out, I thought it was interesting seeing that it's not just that they're using some of the same music, but they're using some of the same music in much the same way. I think I already mentioned Kokiri Village and Outset Island, starting locations. These are where we're setting out. These are Link's. This is Link's home. This is Link's beginning, and I'll be curious to look at going forward. Is this going to remain true? Is this kind of becoming the Link's starting position or Link's home base theme? Uh, Saria's song in the Forest Haven. We have forest area, um, and the forest areas tend to be rather wild, but we also have some friendliness here. That it's I think it's interesting that I listen to I listen to the Forest Haven music in other parts of the Forest Haven, outside. When we're climbing up to get to the where the Deku tree is, and we're fighting enemies, and I think also inside the dungeon, and I didn't hear Saria's song there. So Saria's song was specifically around the Deku tree, very friendly, familiar area. And then Kakariko Village and Windfall Island. In both cases, these are like the large settlement of their game. Kakariko Village was, um, it's the area that we, apart from Castletown, it was really the only real settlement. I mean, you had individual locations like Lon Lon Ranch, or the research center near Lake Hylia, and of course the Goron and Zora areas. But Kakariko Village was the main place where we actually saw people, like Hylians living, And similarly, Windfall Island, except for Outset Island, Windfall Island seems to be the only real large group of of humans. Um, we do see some scattered around. Of course, we have the figurine carver over by the Forest Haven. We have the come to think, I don't think we ever really played his games much, but the guy who does the Battleship game, um, I think he's got an island or two that you can play games on. But overall, um, the Kakariko Village theme is in both places used. Uh, in both places is kind of used for these metropolises or metropoli. Zelda series theme and the overworld theme, um, less. To me, it seems like the overworld theme is more playing with the Zelda theme than it is um, actively using it. Although I'm sure more music-minded people would tell me that it's actually doing exactly, that there's a lot more going on than just that. Um, but then Zelda's Lullaby is just that's just flat out used straight in Wind Waker, um, and seems to be, like I said, it seemed like that was a little bit in Outset Island, and it's definitely in the it's played just as is in the closing credits theme. For reference, the Zelda's Lullaby is. So, and then here it is in Wind Waker. And if I recall, I think that music might have been um, there might have even been some elements of that prior to Ocarina of Time. I want to say that might have appeared at some point in A Link to the Past, but I don't recall it being explicitly associated with Zelda and being called Zelda's Lullaby or Zelda's theme. Maybe it was and I just missed it, but um, my point is it's very clearly, you know, this is another one that they're just saying, okay, this is going to be the song associated with Zelda, and we'll see if that continues going forward. But my main point with this slide is just that we have not just some familiar songs saying like, hey, remember this from the Zelda series, but starting to use songs, the same songs or elements of songs to identify parts of the series. And so moving forward, it'll be fun to see what else we can listen for and what else they end up using. So with that, I think that wraps up. Let me try this again. Okay, wraps up Wind Waker. Now we can move on to Four Sword Adventures. So, okay. We have Legend of Zelda Four Sword Adventures, which is, as you can kind of see here, meant to be played on. Is meant to be played with the Game Boy Advance hooked up to a GameCube. If you've been wondering what that was supposed to look like as I was describing it, here's kind of the element of here's how it looks when you actually had four of them hooked up as was meant to be for a four-player game. So let's see, somewhere around here there should be the storyline. I think here we go. The story of Hyrulean adventure. I have to say I'm not an English major. I don't know between Hyrulean or Hylian. I don't know if it makes sense that like one would be used in some circumstances, or if and the other in other circumstances, or if it's just that it's changed at some point, or if one of them is right or the other is wrong. I tend to just say Hylian for adjectives, for like the adjective form of Hyrule. But okay, but the story. Long ago, in the inner reaches of Hyrule, an evil wind sorcerer known as Vaati began kidnapping beautiful young maidens one after another. Nobody could stop Vaati, and the people of Hyrule despaired. Then a brave young wanderer carrying only a single sword appeared. When the young lad took out his sword, he split into 4 separate beings. The legends say that these 4 beings worked as one and defeated Vaati. The Wanderer, united once again, imprisoned Vaati deep in Hyrule and sealed the prison with his own sword. This place became known as the Realm of the Four Sword. After that, a long time passed. Then the wind sorcerer Vaati broke out of his prison and snatched the Princess Zelda of Hyrule. Zelda's childhood friend, a young boy named Link, claimed the strange power of the Four Sword and fought Vaati fiercely. In the end, he succeeded in sealing Vaati away once again. And so peace was restored to Hyrule once again. Or so everyone thought. So, okay, so we have uh, essentially, you might notice this is the story of Zelda Four Swords that we played before, that Vaati broke out of his prison, snatched Princess Zelda. I'm not sure if it was ever clear exactly why he uh, why he kidnapped her. But Link took up the Four Sword, fought Vaati, and sealed Vaati away again. And that was the first game. Now, apparently, that wasn't enough. So, don't need to go through all of this. So a lot of this we'll probably see in game. I'm assuming it'll explain most of it. I did want to just point out, where is it? Oh, here we go. I did find it was funny as I was looking through this. There's a results screen, which we saw in Four Swords, of when we were showing which Link did the best. And here it actually has Hero of Light and Hero of Darkness. The Hero of Light is the player who helped the most during the previous round, and the Hero of Darkness is the player who caused the most problems. So I can just imagine the fun that would be had with friends of either trying not to be the Hero of Darkness, or eventually someone probably getting frustrated enough that they just actively try to be the Hero of Darkness every round. And I could see frustration rising. I could also see it just devolving into just pure mad chaos, which can be fun if you're not actually trying to accomplish anything. But with that, let's start up the game and see how it goes. So, okay. So, let's see, which one of these is it? There we go. Hopefully the music's coming through all right. Let me know if it's too loud or too quiet. Right away, just again, we have the TV screen, or what would be the TV screen over on the right. On the left is the Game Boy Advance screen. And so at this point, it's telling us just, you wouldn't be looking down at your Game Boy Advance. There's nothing going on it. I actually have not played this game before, so I don't know how much information will end up being on the Game Boy Advance screen for a single player. We'll try it. If it ends up being, If it ends up being like there's nothing on it of interest, then we might switch later, but for now, let's get going. Okay, so Hyrulean Adventure. Adventure across Hyrule and free the realm with the mighty Four Sword. Okay, yes, I would like to create a file for the game. Okay. Okay, we're doing a single player game. Long ago in the kingdom of Hyrule, a wind sorcerer named Vaati appeared. Vaati terrorized the people of Hyrule and kidnapped many beautiful girls from their homes. This is sounding rather familiar. When all hope seemed lost, a young boy carrying little more than a sword appeared. According to the legends, when the boy drew his sword, he split into four, and the four who are one work together to vanquish Vaati. The hero used his sword to bind Vaati in a remote area of Hyrule. The people christened the blade the Four Sword and built a shrine around it. There it remained undisturbed for many years. Ages flowed by. The wind sorcerer Vaati broke free of his prison and kidnapped Zelda, the princess of Hyrule. Princess Zelda's childhood friend Link used the power of the Four Sword to defeat Vaati and seal him away once again. And for a time, the people of Hyrule believed that their land was safe. Until... Link, Link, can you hear my voice? Swiftly and suddenly, dark clouds covered all of Hyrule. Ominous clouds that filled all those who saw them with fear. A sense of dread swept across the land. Link, hurry to Hyrule Castle. Oh, Link, it's you. Thank goodness you came. The 6 maidens who guard Hyrule are gathered here in the castle. The sky has become so dark and foreboding. I'm worried about the seal that binds the wind sorcerer Vaati. Princess Zelda, come quickly. We must hurry. Come this way. These 6 maidens guard the portal to the Four Sword Sanctuary to keep it safe. I think this is Link to the Past music. I'm going now to make sure Vaati's seal remains strong. Now the Shrine Maidens and I must open the portal to the Four Swords' resting place. Step back, Link. I mean, you didn't need to bring me up onto the dais. You could have had me wait off of it. Come with me, Link. Oh. Oh, that can't be good. Ah, who are you? It can't be. You're Link? Oh my. Four-sword sanctuary. Okay, well, I don't have a sword, so I'm going to have to take this. This sword guards the seal on the wind sorcerer Vaati. If you draw the sword, you must know what will happen. Will you still draw forth the sword? Okay, so we have this Dark Link, shadow clone of Link, who still has a colorful shield for some reason. So apparently somehow he was able to get through and help in capturing the maidens. So, and Princess Zelda. So I guess if we don't draw forth the sword, then we're not going to be able to rescue them. We're just going to have to trust that if we draw it forth, we will be able to defeat Vaati, even though we're also going to be releasing him. Although we did do this in Ocarina of Time as well, when we basically opened Ganon's way to the Triforce so that he could take over Hyrule, giving us a chance to defeat him. So, and that time we even had wisdom telling us that was the right thing to do. Here we don't have that, so we have even more excuse for doing something foolish. So yeah, absolutely we'll draw forth the sword. Oh, don't pretend like you didn't know that was going to happen, Link. Vaati is the wind mage, so... Link, you have accepted the destiny of the hero. There's destiny. Princess Zelda and the 6 maidens have been taken by dark forces. However, Vaati's magic has robbed the Four-Sword of its power to vanquish darkness. To return the sword to its full strength, find the source of that power, Force Gems. I guess not rupees anymore. Gather Force Gems wherever they lie and rescue the maidens and Princess Zelda. Okay, so level 1, Whereabouts of the Wind. So I wonder if... Okay, we have to collect Force Gems, and I think from looking through the manual a little bit, it looked like we'll have to collect so many per level to be able to advance. Which you might recall is exactly what we had to do in Four Swords with rupees. But I wonder if they're doing it with calling these Force Gems now to try to make it seem, I guess, to put it bluntly, to have it make a little bit more sense of why we're collecting all these. Because before it was just like, oh, collect a bunch of rupees to prove you're a hero, and then the fairy will give you a key. So it basically just seemed like we just needed to earn enough money to buy a key. Here it's saying, okay, the sword actually doesn't have the power to stop Vaati at the moment, and we have to collect these gems. Like, the gems have power that will restore to the sword. So that sounds like it makes a little bit more narrative sense. So let's see what is going on here. Link, you must awaken, Link. Oh, we have some information on the Game Boy Advance screen now. Woohoo, at last you're awake, Link. I am Kapora Gabora. I think Of course, he's acting very much like the owl from Ocarina of Time. I think in Ocarina of Time he was already given the name Kapora Gabora. But yeah, so if not the same owl, probably one of the same line, just like Link's of the same line, or Zelda's are all of the same line. So, mine is the voice you've been hearing since you left the Four Sword Sanctuary. Although now that you can see me, you're giving me a little bit of a different voice. I know you're worried about finding Vaati, but you must not act rashly. Find the 6 Shrine Maidens and Princess Zelda, and you will also find Vaati. As for that dark shadow, let's call him Shadow Link. That one is up to no good. Your sword is weak, but you can restore its power by infusing it with Force Gems. But first, the 4 who have been divided must be drawn together. Press the L button. I must fly, but we will meet again on the road ahead. Just push them around. Okay. Okay, so... Oh, interesting. Okay, so I can press L. Okay, we can do a little bit of a square formation. Protected from all sides. Okay, interesting. So it's not always march abreast, it's just always be horizontal on the screen. Okay. And then this, of course, is going to be vertical on the screen. Okay, and always march in a little box. Let's see. Kind of like this. Gather the 4 at the arrows to proceed. Oh, okay, so... Okay. I guess it just needs to... We just need to all be here. Okay, and they're doing some formation as well, so maybe if we go in there, we'll learn about formations. Hey, we found a Force Gem! Source of the sword's power. And we can see on the Game Boy Advance screen it's showing us our hearts and how many Force Gems we have. It's also showing us Force Gems on the main screen here, too. But I can see where if you had multiple people playing, the main screen probably shows the total of everybody, and the Game Boy Advance screen would show these are how many you specifically have. In our game, those are probably going to be the same. Oh, okay, and here we have where we went inside, and now it's over on the Game Boy Advance screen. Again, if we were playing with multiple people, the other 3 people could all be outside while one person was in, and just see, when you go inside, you look down to see where you are. So, okay, kind of interesting. I've never seen you lads in these parts before. I'm spending my retirement teaching my grandkids all about formations. You may not believe me, but I'm a former castle guard, a professional adventurer. Formations are the key to working together and performing great deeds. If you're interested in learning more about it, go on into my backyard. Okay. Okay, we'll get started once you're all standing in the field on the left. Excellent, you seem well prepared. I shall now begin your formal formation training. Ready? 10 hut! Now commencing formation drills explanation. I call out formations and you arrange yourselves appropriately. Press the L button to change formations. It's that simple. If you don't know formations by name, watch my grandkids for a hint. Commence formation drills. Box. Good. Next. Wide. Okay. Long. Good, last one. Cross. That's enough. That's the end of the drill. I'll give you some force gems for all the hard work you've done. No matter where you go or what you do, remember your formations. Your safety is my #1 concern. Can we talk to them? You can change into one of 4 different formations by pressing the L button. You don't understand that, right? Well, have you mastered all the formations? Oh, hi there! You're kinda cute, and you've got a Game Boy Advance. I always link up my Game Boy Advance. Really, it's the only way to go. Well, that's what my grandfather always tells us. Wonder what he means. If you get into formation and unite your strength, you can do almost anything. You can certainly do more than any one of you could do alone. So, referencing the Game Boy Advance, actually seems a bit of a callback to Link's Awakening, where in Link's Awakening you'd have like the kids on the island saying stuff like, I heard that you can save your game by pressing all the buttons at once, but I don't know what that means because I'm just a kid. Things basically telling you how to, the real life interaction that you needed to do in order to do something, but then not having them understand because, of course, they're in a video game and, to them there is no Game Boy Advance or anything. So here again we have the girl saying, oh yeah, just hook up a Game Boy Advance, but I don't really understand what that means. Okay, the bridge is out. If you just have to see what's on the other side, press and hold the B button. Oh, okay. Broke a sign in the process, so hopefully we don't have a sign-loving Subrosian. Gonna get on our case for that. But good to know that if we hold B, we can zoom out a little bit. Okay, let's see. Can we do this? There we go. If we push together. Okay, use that to throw. Is there swimming in this game, or do we need to get flippers? Okay, we can just swim by default. That's good. Okay, nice countdown for how long we can stay under. I like the reflections of the clouds in the water. Let's see what's in this cave. You got the boomerang. Press the A button to send it winging away. Use it to stun enemies and retrieve distant items. No one should be without it. Press and hold the A button to keep it hovering in place. So I do think the sound quality might differ a little bit, because when we're inside like that, we're going to be on the Game Boy Advance, so it's probably using the Game Boy Advance speakers. That's cool, you can just leave it spinning there. Hey, wait a second, that's Shadow Link up there. Now you wait right there, Shadow Link, and I will be up to deal with you in just a moment. Do not recklessly pick up stones and throw them by pressing the R button. Sorry. No. We've got 100 force gems filled with power. And we had 100 earlier. I wonder why we weren't filled with power then. Okay. Can't pick up stumps though, so how do we access that rock? Alright, let's... Okay, can't do anything with that. Alright, let's see if formations will help us. Oh. No, but the boomerang will. It's a small key. Use the R button to lift it and carry it to a keyhole. Okay. Oh, I just noticed the boomerang on the main screen here, based on the Wind Waker boomerang design. Oh. R pickup. Oh, thank goodness. That stupid door was really getting on my nerves. It never occurred to me that someone might have locked it from the outside. I'm convinced it was that shadowy boy, the one who looks just like you. Strange things are happening everywhere these days. You boys watch yourselves. Okay, you don't find it odd that there's 4 boys who look exactly like the shadowy boy who locked you in your house? I've started working out so I can do something about all those Octoroks out front. Still, no matter how strong I am, I'll never be able to, say, lift a huge rock alone. Okay, well, what if, let's see. Okay, let's... There's an item, lift it with the R button. Okay, we got the fire rod. Press the A button to fire a ball of fire, hot. Hold the A button longer to let loose a burst of flame. Okay, so we just basically have a little flamethrower now. Get that. That should help us with these stumps out here. Oh, so you want that rod, do you? That shadow boy was after the same thing. I hid it from him, but I think you can have it. You've been so nice to me. And besides, you look like you could be trusted with it. Take care of it, alright? I mean, we did kind of take it without asking, but thanks for retroactively letting us have it. Oh. Okay, we can get hurt by fire. Good to know. Good way of rapidly clearing out grass, though. Okay, so grass tends to leave blue or green force gems, while stumps seem to leave blue ones. Oh, it's not going to help. Oh, hey, it looks like a Cheep Cheep from Mario. Got 20 force gems. The swords are gaining power. Okay, well, I guess it's a bit early to say this is absolutely our go-to weapon, but it's tough for me to... Oh, it's tough for me to imagine that there's a better one as kind of our default if we don't need a anything specific for a specific purpose. Okay, do these trees burn? These trees do not. Okay. Oh, wow. Alright, we are getting so much force for the for our sword. Oh, hello. So we have guards coming after us. They can't get past the tree, though. Whereas we can swim over here. I guess this is under the bridge. Hey, it's Tingle! Was not anticipating seeing Tingle in this game. Huh? You've saved Tingle! Ooh, that outfit, that aura! It's the fairy that Tingle has dreamed of! It's you! Oh, Mr. Fairy, you coming to rescue me has left me overcome with emotion. Let me thank you by sharing some thrilling Tingle news with you. The oh-so-Tingle-esque pastime of collecting Force Gems is all the rage now. In fact, I got stuck under here trying to get the Force Gem under this rock. But you saved me. Clearly it was the power of the gems that led you here to me. Tingle believes without a doubt that good things come from collecting Force Gems. Why, collecting enough Force Gems may even turn Tingle into a real and true fairy. No doubt that's why you're after the Force Gems too, isn't it, Mr. Fairy? Let's be fair about where we look and share the gems equally, Mr. Fairy. And with that, Tingle must say his farewells. Don't follow me. Tingle, Tingle, Kulu-Limpa. Travel by balloon, of course. Swimming basics. Don't be timid. Jump on in. Oh. Press the A button to swim. Press the B button to dive. Don't stay under too long. Okay. Okay, so we go. If we had a boomerang, we could grab that, but. Still enjoying getting lots of gems? Yeah. Shooting folks out of my homemade cannon is my hobby. Hey, you want to go for a ride? Well, climb on in and press the A button. You shoot right up like a human cannonball. If you want to leave, press up or down at one of the exits. Force Gems. We're feeling brave now. I find it interesting that his hobby isn't making cannons or even firing cannons or anything. It's specifically firing people out of this one cannon. It seems a little sketchy to me, but... Hey, no, Tingle, those are mine. Tingle, that was mine. Oh, I can't jump up. Okay, well. Tingle can have the floating one there. I would rather keep the fire rod for now. Oh, we're back to River Zoras. So it's interesting, on the one hand, a lot of the overworld style and everything is very much a link to the past, but the Link style seems like a 2D version somewhat of Wind Waker. And of course we have like the Wind Waker. Okay, nope, not that. It's also looking like next one over doesn't, or just leads to a dead end. So okay, here we go. Whoa, look at you! You guys are identical. Say, the four of you, you're brothers or friends? Is that it? I know I look exactly like all of my friends. Um, okay, listen up. I'm real particular about friends. Friends don't always have to be doing the same thing, you know? True friends can do their own thing and still work things out together. Just press select to check up on your friends. And when you want to be with your friends again, press the L button. Sounds nice, doesn't it? I've got to get some friends of my own. Okay, so... Okay, so if we separate them all... Okay, we can press select to switch to different ones. Okay. And then L gathers them all together. Do you have anything else to say? Oh, same thing. Alright, we got a heart container. You're stronger and your hearts have been refilled. Now, I'll be interested to see, do we get to keep heart containers in here in this one, or is it like we get more hearts and then they go back down between levels or something like in Four Swords? Oh, I see. Oh, sorry, Blue Link. So if we do this... Okay, there we go. I think we might have also... I wonder if we could also toss a link across. I gotta try that out just to see for future reference. Okay, we can cross that size gap, like 2 squares. Oh. Okay, completely missed. Wasn't sure what the timing was going to be on that, but... what's this? Oh, it's an underwater area. We can only stay under so long? Okay. Makes sense. Okay, so let's see. Nope. I need to, like, do this. Oh, there we go. So it's interesting they have these areas you have to work together to get to, but that there's only 2 chests. This one, only one of the chests had Force Gems, so... this would be an interesting mix of cooperative and competitive. Got the blue bracelet. You feel like you're stronger than steel. Damage is now reduced by half. Okay, yeah, these upgrades are definitely going to be going away between levels, because we've barely even encountered any enemies. We already have a blue bracelet. I think they're just wanting us to kind of experience everything and then they'll reset it. Oh, oh, I thought that we were going to take damage from that. It's actually a secret. So we know to actually need to go down into holes. Oh. No, I don't want the boomerang. I want to keep the fire rod. Oh, hey, we're back here. Okay. Kind of hoping maybe there'd be an... Whoa! Okay, yeah. Fire rod, right choice. Okay, your swords are filled with the power to repel evil. Press and hold the B button until the tip of your blade flashes twice, then let go. Okay. Okay. Hurricane spin. Got heart containers. You're stronger and your heart's been refilled. Okay, so we can also fire a sword beam now. Oh. Oh, Tingle, these are mine. So Tingle seems like he's going to be a lot like Maple. The apprentice witch in the Oracle's games, except that Maple, like, we bumped into her, and, like, so some of the stuff was hers and some was ours, and then we're just racing to see who can pick up what. Tingle's just waiting for us to do all the work, and then he's trying to come in and steal what we've done. Oh. Okay. Oh, here's Kapora Gabora. Let's see what he has to say. Oh, I never really noticed. Maybe this isn't the case in the 3D ones, but here his chest is shaped like a heart container. So, Link, those black spheres form a barrier of darkness. The darkness that Vaati created is siphoning the power from the land. If these barriers are left intact across Hyrule, Vaati will grow ever stronger. Look, already the green fields that once grew here have withered to dust. It is unforgivable what he has done to the land. The power of the Four Sword can destroy the barriers. You must bring your light and pierce the darkness. Oh, we just need to hit all four. Yes. Okay, a Force Fairy. They can revive the fallen links. Okay. Okay, so we're still on level 1. Whereabouts of the wind, but now we've reached the Cave of No Return. Okay, let's try another level. So, Lake Hylia. Okay, it's the Cave of No Return. Okay, so we're starting. Okay, we're starting in the same place we were before. We can't go back to where the boss fight was. So, Okay, it's nice having a little overlapping area, some consistency that we haven't really traveled far. We don't have our fire rod anymore. And yep, our hearts have gone back down to 3 hearts right now and 4 hearts maximum. I can kind of see. Got a lamp. On a dark and lonely night, press the A button for a gentle light. If you get chilly, press the A button to burn whatever's in front of you. Okay, so there's the entrance. Ah. Wait, before we deal with Shadow Link, I want to see what else was in here. Okay, just another couple pots. I'm not sure what these statues are supposed to be. Wait, Shadow Link. Got 100 force gems, you're filled with power. Shadow Link seems to be villainous, but at the same time, he doesn't really seem to be trying to fight us or anything. I mean, he doesn't have a sword. But I don't know, something seems kind of odd here. There we go. Guess we're gonna need to get a key. We can kind of see where the blocks are able to slide, so that's good. I also find it interesting, they did 2D style, and I guess they want it to be sprites and things that they can display on the Game Boy Advance screen and have it look pretty close to the same. But at the same time, like some things like these fire effects and things are actually they seem to be a bit more than what a Game Boy Advance could handle. So they are using the GameCube's abilities a bit as well for the shared screen. Okay, you got a small key. Carry it to a keyhole. Okay. It's gonna take a little getting used to. Oh. Okay, we can roll apparently. These formations are going to take a little getting used to, but it's kind of an interesting idea. I could definitely see how if you're playing with 4 people, I guess you only need 2 to move these small ones, but 4 to get the larger ones. You could easily have some people doing a lot more work than others, either intentionally or unintentionally. Okay, so let me guess. We can only move the same color as our own. Yep. So if I do this. Okay, cool. So let's see where green leads us. Green and red both lead here. Purple and blue. Okay, both lead up here. Oh, okay. Has to come from the other side, I guess. How about purple? Can purple push this one? Purple can. Up, there's a chest up there. I guess we are going to want to get up there. Okay, so we're going to have to get down there. Alright, 200 force gems, a glowing light surrounds you. Okay. Interesting. So I mean, we've had, the Zelda series has always had pushing block puzzles. Even the original Legend of Zelda had pushing blocks to open new areas. Making them color-coded is an interesting way to oh my. Okay. Ah. Okay, so I wonder if these align with the holes here, then for the next set we're going to want to be with the top part of that bottom hole. Okay. Yeah, there we go. I knew it was going to be... Is there some secret if we light all these, though? No? Oh. There's this way. Was that... Is this a secret for getting all the... Okay, Force Fairy times 4. Okay, these things are giving us plenty of hearts, so... Wow. Another heart container. Okay, so... Nice little secret bonus room. I don't much care for the constantly being attacked while in the secret bonus room. Okay, what do we do with this key? pick it up. What can we do with it? Can we take it to the next room? Okay, good, we can. Oh, maybe we need to go in there. What? You have friends, I'm jealous. If you have friends, you can toss them across chasms. I never had any friends. You're a lucky guy. Oh, it's a ghost of a guy who didn't have any friends. Well, we dropped our key. Okay. Okay, that's not water that you can swim in. It's not... Okay, so, Oh, sorry. I meant to throw you. No. Yeah, okay, that's... Not sure what we're doing here. Maybe we need to light those remotely somehow. Here's a bow. Let's see if that helps. Nope. Got the blue bracelets. Okay. Okay, strike enemies near and far. Hold the A button longer for more power to pierce your foes. Okay, so I guess we would have needed the key eventually. Okay, so so what we do. Okay, if we fire arrows through here, then we can light up all the lamps, and will that open up a way? Woo! Okay, you guys don't seem like you're really flying towards us. So I guess if they're close, they'll attack us. Otherwise, they'll just fly around, and we can kind of play pseudo Space Invaders. Okay, clear out all the ones. Okay, why is that gem sometimes purple? And how can we collect it? Okay, let's try this. There we go. 300 force gems. You feel incredible. Alright, Red, let's try that again. Is this one changing? I'm not seeing it change, so we'll just grab that. Ho ho ho, so back again, are you? I have a feeling I'll be seeing a lot of you. Hee hee hee. Okay. Hee hee hee. Why? Who are you? Have we met before? Oh, this is gonna be like a maze. Okay, so if we go through there, it leads up to there. What happens if we just go back up? Does it lead exact the same? Okay. And if we go up here, so, okay. So it doesn't seem to be like randomizing or anything, it's just, well, yet. So we meet again, hee hee. Oh. Oh, if we go the wrong way, I heard a, like, dirt. So if we go the wrong way, it leads back to the beginning. Okay. So we're gonna have to kind of remember our route through. Okay. Okay, so... Swords are filled with the power to repel evil. Okay, so left or right? Oh, the Game Boy screen gets wobbly when we get dizzy. Let's try. No, okay. So left the first time, right the second time. So right. Or I guess second and third time. Left. And then right. Okay, well, we didn't see that much of each other, dude. Here's a... Are you another friendless ghost? Ooh, so you've wandered into this cave of no return too, eh? If you want to escape alive, you must pull a long lever. Grab it with the R button, then pull, then line up this way and pull. That's just common sense. I was all alone though, so I couldn't do it. I died all alone. Okay, so if we try to just pull it on our own, we can't do it. But if we all pull together... This is the boss room. Yeah. Defeat Shadow Link, yeah! Wait, look, there's another ghost guy over here. Ooh, someone who looked just like you did this to me. If you're looking to defeat him, check his tunic. You can't hit him if you're not wearing the same color. It's common sense. I'd guess as much from the start, but he still got the best... Oh, okay. How do we know what color tunic he's wearing? Okay. Red. You want to just stand by the bomb? Oh, okay. Okay. They're put up a fight. Oh, so in Four Swords, when we played it, if I switched between the different links, they were both collecting gems separately. Here, because it's single player, looks like it's just all the links still, even if I go to a different color, it still counts as just one gem pile. Okay. Force Fairy times 6. Hyrule Castle. Okay, so we'll save here. It's quitting time, but next week should be here next week, and we'll continue with Hyrule Castle and with this game. Seems like it'll be an interesting experience, and it looks like, obviously drew some inspiration from Four Swords, not just story but gameplay wise, but also seems to have made some improvements. And interestingly enough, when we were just looking at the Zelda series, we were talking about exploration being a theme. And interestingly enough, here in the Four Swords games, you don't have exploration as far as regions because it's a very linear game, but you're still encouraged to check everywhere because you're wanting to get all the gems, and so different kind of exploration. But we'll continue with that next week, and yeah, should be here next week. Should be here Friday, and we'll yeah, all streams as normal. So thank you for joining me. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.